We're live for you. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Our phone lines are open already. I think it is Ryan Penny that's on the phones. I do know it's Jeff Burson, our producer, who is making the show happen for us today and getting all of your questions gathered together from social media. We certainly do invite you to give us a call. I'm going to give you that number right away, 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. That is the way that you can join us live here on Women of Grace Live, where we do love having that holy conversation with you. We certainly do. I've been in production at EWTN for our television program, Women of Grace. And as a result of that, I wasn't with you yesterday, and I missed you. I wasn't with you Monday either. But I'm so happy that I am with you today. And I'm so happy because it is Wacky Wednesday. And that means that we have Sue Brinkman with us, and we discuss all of the wacky things that are going on that we see around us in the world, also within the context of the culture of the day, some of the ideologies that are being presented to us that certainly do not square with sacred scripture and the teachings of the church. This is your opportunity to ask us questions about all of those things and anything else that you would like to talk with us about today. Again, that number is 833-288 EWTN, 833-288-3986. Also do invite you to use the opportunities that are available for you out there in social media land. We invite you to get out there to EWTN Radio's YouTube channel and Facebook page. Use the chat feature there to put your question, comment, insight, inspiration, word of encouragement in there. And Jeff Burson will get it, and he'll put it up on the board, and we can address it. I just want, typically, I just chat for a little while, and then I bring Sue on, and then we, get into the meat of the day. But today, I just really do want to bring Sue on early here in this first segment of the show, because I want to talk about the book Queen of Militants, which is a book that Women of Grace has republished. We're very, very excited about this book. And I want her to share a little bit about it. It's very meaningful to her, very meaningful to me. I know it's going to be meaningful for you as well. And I want to let you know that copies of this book are available for you at womenofgrace.com. A quick, easy way to get there is simply to put Queen of Militants, plural, Queen of Militants, all one word, queenofmilitants.com into your browser, and it's going to come up for you, and you can order right online. We're inviting you to do so. It's a tremendous book written by Father Emil Newbear, one of my favorite guys. You know that. I just love him so much. I have not met him because he's in heaven now, but I hope to meet him someday, and really do want to, just have an opportunity in heaven to interview him a little bit, just for my own personal satisfaction. But all of that being said, this book is really a manual for us for this moment in time, and one that I know is going to benefit you. So let's welcome to the program today, Sue Brinkman, on this Wacky Wednesday. Good morning. How are you, Sue?
Oh, I'm just groovy today.
Well, golly gee willikers, Sue. That's so good.
It's the corny queens of the radio today.
I like that. The corny queens of the radio. That has a certain ring to it, doesn't it?
It does.
It's so funny because, Sue and I have just gotten into this pattern on Wednesdays of bringing up all of these silly old sayings from the past that some of us remember and some of us don't, but we certainly enjoy it. If you've got a corny saying that you want to share, just call us with your corny saying. Wacky Wednesdays are wacky the whole way around. But I do like that. We're the queens of corn, but our Blessed Lady is the Queen of Militants.
Yes, she is.
Nothing corny about that.
No, nothing corny. That, Johnnette, I just have to tell you, I love that book. I'm actually kind of crazy about that book. I have read it 3 times, and I just now started reading it for a 4th time.
Yeah.
It is so germane to what's happening in this world today, right now. How much women need Our Lady as an example of the kind of militancy that we need to bring into this world, which is all, of course, founded in Christ.
Yes.
And in bringing him into this world. And she's the perfect person to form us in that. She's got all the graces. She has everything that we need. We just need to follow her example of it. Everything he says in that book, it reminds me that I am a militant. I'm supposed to be a militant in this world. And women, of course, have a particular genius for that. Mm-hmm. We've been given all the equipment. That's why we were given the assignment that we were given by the Fathers of the Second Vatican Council to get out there and save the peace of the world. They put that on us.
I know.
On women. And that's because we have what it takes, but we also have the example of how to do that. And that's in Our Lady and in her perfect conformity to her son, Jesus Christ. I mean, the book is just loaded with stuff, and it's written in a way that it's very understandable. He doesn't write too loftily.
No.
Like sometimes you get into the Mariology, it gets way out there and you think, oh, okay, you're kind of losing me. But not this one. He brings everything down to, I shouldn't say down because we're not down, we're just normal people. He brings everything to our level where we can understand who she is and why he refers to her as a militant. And she really was. We don't see her that way. It's not a title that we often attribute to Our Lady, but she was a militant.
Yes. And she remains so from heaven. And I think that that's the point. And what does she want to do? She wants to form us according to her own heart and her own mind. Remember what the mission was that she was given in Genesis 3, verse 15. God prophesies to the serpent and says, I will put enmities between you and the woman. What is an enmity? An enmity is a war. Note that it's a plural. So he's putting wars between Our Lady and the evil one. And that means Our Lady, stands up. And Our Lady enters into the fray. And what is her job? Her job, as we read in that passage, is to crush the head of the serpent. How does she do that? She does it through her fiat. She does it through her yes. She brings the divine life, the incarnate God, into the world. And it's through that gesture that the evil one is conquered. Well, we're called to do likewise. And she is the queen. She is mother of the church. And we know the communion of saints, the church triumphant, the church militant, and the church suffering. We are the church militant. We are the ones on the battlefield of life that still have to go forward. She wants to train us up. She knows the strategy. She knows how to lay the strategy bare. She knows how to win the day for her son, Christ Jesus. And that's precisely what she wants to encourage us to do. And Father Newbear, as you say so well, Sue, gives us the ways in which this can be done. It's a brilliant book. Brilliant, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And I know I'm reading now on page 40. It says, and now what is the function of a militant? The function of militant, he says, is to give Christ to those who do not know him or do not serve him, to give greater life to those who are in the state of grace, but who do not always conduct themselves according to his teachings. Do you not see that a militant does on a small scale the same work that our Heavenly Mother does? Just exactly what you just said.
Yep.
We're called to do on a small scale what Our Lady is doing right now for all of us from heaven.
That's exactly right. And so, God desires that we follow suit and we do likewise. And Our Lady wants to help us to do that. And the book that we're talking about is Queen of Militants by Father Emile Newbear, recently republished for you by Women of Grace. It's available for you out there at our website, womenofgrace.com. The quickest way to get there, queenofmilitants.com, queenofmilitants.com. Order your copy today. We cannot keep these in stock, Sue. I mean, we just keep selling out of them. So we want to encourage you to get out there, get your copy. This gives us our marching orders. This tells us how to go. It tells us where to go. It tells us why to go. All of that for you there. More on this Wacky Wednesday with Sue Brinkman on the other side of the break, inviting you to call us 833-288-EWTN. Coming right back at you. Stay tuned.
EWTN is now on Twitter. Get short, timely messages from EWTN on your computer or cell phone. It's easy to stay up to date on a wide variety of topics. Pro-life news, Vatican announcements, catechesis, apologetics, the latest EWTN programming, and more. You can link to EWTN on Twitter from our homepage or go to twitter.com/EWTN. At work, at home, at school, and on the road. Stay connected to your world with EWTN's Twitter page.
Father John Riccardo.
God reveals himself by repeatedly breaking into people's lives. He says to Abraham, I'm going to make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and the sand on the shore. I want to make a covenant with you. I'm going to enter into a relationship with you. I call you into friendship. I want you to know me. He does it because he wants the individual or the individuals to know him, because that's why we're here. But he also does it so that they will help others to know him, so that they will tell others about the one that they've met, the one who's spoken to them, the one who has done great things on their behalf. Because faith isn't private, it's meant to be shared. That's why he reveals himself to us. The saving deeds that we see God do in the Old Testament, which give us access to his identity and to who he is, all find their fulfillment in Jesus.
The people you know and trust are on EWTN.
The reason we pray is so that we can get to know and experience the love of God. The teaching of the Catechism is clear. The reason you were created is to know God. So the only way to get to know God is to spend time with Him. You can't fall in love with anybody unless you spend time with them. And when you go and you spend time with God, what you're going to get to know is that you're loved by God. And that's the deepest need in your heart. So make commitment every day to spend time with God so you can come to know His love.
Encouraging women in their gift of authentic femininity. Here's more Women of Grace with Johnnette Williams.
Welcome back, friends. You are listening to Women of Grace Live. I am Johnnette Williams. We're here with Sue Brinkman on this wacky Wednesday. All kinds of things we want to talk with you about. Mostly we want to hear from you, though. What do you want to talk about today? What is going on in your world that's a little wacky? Let's bring it up for discussion right here at 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. That is the way that you can join us here on Women of Grace Live, where we love having that holy conversation with you. You can also be with us via social media. Get out there to social media this way. Just go on out to EWTN Radio's YouTube channel and Facebook page. Use the chat feature there. Put your question, comment, insight, inspiration, word of encouragement in there. And Jeff Burson will get it and put it up. Did you know you can text us? You can. Text EWTN to 55000. That's EWTN to 55000. Wait for a response. Put your question or comment in there and, send it up. Data rates and messaging rates may apply. Well, we're looking forward to hearing from you. Sue, you were talking about the fact that there's so much going on. And, we kind of look at this day as a day when we talk about ideologies and spiritual techniques and practices, as well as some of the things that we're seeing in alternative medicines that are based in philosophies other than the revealed truth of sacred scripture and the teachings of the church. So share with us a little bit, what is the philosophical basis for so much of this?
Oh, the New Age, actually, it has its own philosophy. It's in the New Age, the only authority is the self, for one. In the New Age, there's rarely any distinction between good and evil. They call it good or a bad choice. Mm-hmm. Evil is not personified. There is no such thing as Satan there. That explains why they so easily embrace the occult. All kinds of occult practices are just totally embraced by the New Age. The need for grace is rejected because of the belief that humans can perfect themselves through their own efforts and the help of enlightened people. And because there's no evil, no sin, no grace, there's no need for who? Jesus. Exactly. We don't need a redeemer. So they relegate Jesus, the Redeemer, among the ranks of the enlightened persons. Now, in the New Age also, humans are not the reason for creation. This is where you get all these green religions, and this is where you have the eco-spiritualities that are developing in this day and age that go overboard. They say that creation is thought to be eternal and self-sufficient and that we're nothing special. Human beings, we're just equal among animals and plants.
Yes.
We're just one among them. And they also, the New Age also claims this was the one that really gets to me being a Carmelite, is that instead of being capable of having a relationship with the personal God, which is what we have, New Agers believe we become absorbed in God, who is the universe.
Right.
Because it's pantheistic, right? They believe God is all in all. They see God as an energy force. They see him as chi, ki, prana. And every time you see these energy healing modalities, this is what they're doing. They're turning to their God, which the pontifical document, Jesus Christ, the bearer of the water of life, calls the New Age God. That's what they refer to chi as. That's their God.
Chi,
so
ki,
prana,
universal
life force. This all means the same thing. Yin yang. It's all the same thing. So when you're going and you're having some of these energy healing modalities, that's what you're doing. You're going to somebody who's taking you to their God, so to speak, for healing, rather than, of course, going to our God, who was the greatest healer who ever walked the earth. So that's what is behind the New Age. And a lot of people say, well, you guys, did you make kind of too big a deal out of this? And what's wrong with some of these little things? We're just fooling around in it. Hey, you know what? When you buy this stuff, what you're doing is keeping them in business.
That's right.
And you're keeping these philosophies in this world. Yeah. And we shouldn't have anything to do with it. Not even as dabbling around.
Well, last week I had the opportunity to speak with a group of actually our managers and principal positioned people for lots of our affiliates that are in the Midwest there, especially the Ohio affiliates, Indiana affiliates were there. And it was a marvelous opportunity. And they asked me to present a little bit on the New Age. And they're very, very grateful for this program that we do. And I was telling them that, if we were to trace the contemporary roots of this, first of all, it's important to understand as you're putting this forth so wonderfully that this is the concept of the New Age lives and rests on a heresy called syncretism, where you can pull from a wide variety of philosophies, a wide variety of thoughts, and pull them together and make them one thing. So you're not particularly faithful to any of these things. You just pull from them as it suits your fancy to create something new. And the principal tributaries that feed into this happen to be Eastern Oriental mysticism, basically Hinduism and Buddhism primarily, additionally Western occultism, and then finally the human potential movement. And it pulls from them and is absolutely faithful to none. And this became furthered in the late 1800s on into the early 20th century by a woman whose name was Madame Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, and a military general, or colonel rather, whose name was Colonel Henry Steele Occult. And they created an organization called Theosophy, the Theosophical Society. And that philosophy contains everything in it that you just said, that man is God, and that Judaism and Christianity distorted the central truth of the ancient wisdom, that the only path to truth about reality is experience, that nothing else matters. So except what you experience, that is the arbiter of what is true and what is false. That experience transcends all normal objective knowledge. So you'll hear people saying this, but this is my experience. Well, that's fine, but it doesn't mean that experience is based on fact. It doesn't mean that it's based on logic. It's an experience, nothing more than that. So emotions play a big role in this. The experience is considered to be the absolute oneness of everything, that man is not distinct from God. This is what you were talking about. He is an outflowing from God of his very substance. God is not a person. In theosophical circles, he's referred to as it. There's only one religion, the ancient religion, and all roads lead to this religion. So or this truth. All roads are valid. It advances the idea of a radical communitarianism, and moral norms are denied. And such is because moral norms are denied are also such things as the value of the individual human life, the family, and the Judeo-Christian sexual ethic. In light of that, all things are considered equal. And that's what you were talking about. Man is part of this universe, and no element of this universe, no part of this created world is greater than another, because all things in their essence are God. So we protect the dolphin because the dolphin's God. We protect the trees because the trees are God. It's a pantheism, a Gnosticism, a pantheism, and a monism. So there you have it. I mean, this is what the basis is. We can see how that doesn't square up, right?
Oh, absolutely. And it's behind all of these things. It's behind, the whole drive toward using natural remedies for things. Because again, you can heal yourself in the New Age.
Right.
You have the power within yourself to heal yourself. That's again another offshoot of the human potential movement and all this self-help stuff that people go in. Barnes and Noble, if you walk into a local store, 95% of the books in the Barnes and Noble self-help aisle have no scientific evidence that they work. 95% of them. But yet, like you were saying, everything is experience. But yeah, it worked for me. It seemed to work for me. And that's all that matters. Is the facts don't matter anymore.
That's right. Nor the origin of the facts, nor the modality that's being used. So even, this goes back years, but it still exists. Psychic healing. If psychic healing works, then we should use it with no regard for its moral basis. And of course, the Catechism addresses that directly, that we cannot use these techniques, even if they should bring about healing. We shouldn't use them because they're rooted in a demonic power, an occult power, an attempt to, in some way, take the elements of the universe and use them, put them at our disposal to manipulate the elements of the universe.
That's exactly what they do. It's exactly it. and it gets the shamanism. That whole thing is being swept in on that same basis there. Right. And especially when it comes to creation, that's where the shamanism is. I'm finding it right now to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Mm-hmm. And that's where the shamans say the witch doctor is another name for it. Or the medicine man. That's another name for it. What they do is they call the spirits that they believe exist in the trees and the plants and even in storms, lightning and thunder, and they call these spirits into themselves to possess themselves so that they can then use their powers.
Well, that's right. And that's the other thing I was going to say. There's almost a synonymous relationship between the word power and the word, spirit. When you consider crystals being used for healing, they say, well, there are certain powers that these crystals have. Well, what are you talking about there? You're talking about some kind of spirit that controls that particular crystal. Amethyst is good for this. This is good for that. Crystals in and of themselves are lovely. God created them. They're neutral in terms of morality. But if we put on them a power that, one, they don't possess, or two, if that might be present there because somebody has put a spell on it or called that power forth, then we venture into very dangerous spiritual waters, and there are repercussions for that.
Bad ones, very, very bad ones, Johnnette. In fact, we worked with somebody, and I'm still in touch with her over the years, who was just very seriously injured spiritually by becoming involved in crystal therapy.
Right. And so the question is, does it happen to everybody? No. But does it happen? Yes. Is it a sin? The fact of the matter is, it's a sin if you know it's wrong and you do it anyway. If you don't know it's wrong, it's not a sin, but it doesn't protect you from any residual effect. And that's the point that you've got to get across, in terms of your own thinking processes, is that you're not protected because you're ignorant. You're not protected because you don't know.
That's so true. And people just, they wade into this stuff and they think, oh, but all my friends are doing it. And, everybody else seems to be having a wonderful time. And the websites are loaded with these testimonials, these glowing testimonials, which of course mean nothing. A lot of those testimonies are probably written by the people who put the website up for you. Yeah. I mean, it's you can't go by that stuff. Mm-mm. But we're just moving into that era, I think, where, people are not looking at life through a Christian lens anymore. No. And they're just introducing all this stuff and they're merging it all in there. And it's called unbundling. When you talk about millennials, they tend to be mixing and matching all this stuff, right? They were the generation raised on Harry Potter. So that's a little bit of magic, a little bit of witchcraft, and then they'll go to a Jewish seder. They'll sit in on Christmas carols at the local church. They just kind of mix it all together.
That's
and
right.
Make their own faith path. And that's what's happening. And New Age is right in there amongst it.
And we have a feeling that we can take these things and plug them into our practices and not have it affect our faith. We can mix it into our faith. We cannot. That is the heresy of syncretism. Well, one of the big things out there today is mindfulness, and we have Joan with us. And Joan is in Atlanta, Georgia. She's with us via iHeartRadio app, and she's got a question about it. Good morning, Joan. How are you?
Hey, good morning. I'm very well, thank you. Yes, I hear a lot about mindfulness. I'm a public school teacher, and they offer what they call mindfulness training at the school. The guidance counselors offer this, and they also offer it as an opportunity for students to go and participate in this. And my understanding for them offering this is because of the amount of stress and anxiety and depression that is prevalent amongst our students and just this generation in general. And I'm just curious about the genesis of this mindfulness movement, as well as how might you compare it to some of the things we do as practicing Catholics with regards to reflection and meditation. And I just kind of wanted to hear you guys speak to that, if you would, because I feel like I have an understanding of it, but I don't know that I can articulate it very well. So I just wondered if you could speak to that.
Sure, Joan, and I'm glad you called in about this because this is really sweeping, the nation right now. And unfortunately, a lot of these practices come into our schools through the counselors who may or may not be aware of the roots of any of these things, or even if they are, possibly don't care about it because in their estimation, there's a good that comes out of it. So go ahead, Sue, tell us.
Well, as a matter of fact, as far as mindfulness in schools, the ACLJ, the American Center for Law and Justice, which is headed up by Jay Segalo, they are actually right now in the middle of informing schools across the country that if you get involved in this mindfulness that is sweeping into our schools, there may be a violation of separation of church and state, or what they call the Establishment Clause of the Constitution. That is ongoing right now. We have just recently published some information about that. These are programs called Mind Up, Inner Explorer, Calm Classroom, Mindful Schools. This stuff is all bringing Buddhism into schools, and they're trying to secularize it. But the problem is that you can't really do that. No. Because they're distinctly Buddhist practices which incorporate things such as emptying the mind, letting the thoughts float away on a cloud. Instead of encouraging children to address bad thoughts that enter their minds, which is what we would do in our forms of meditation, Buddhism tells you to just ignore them. Just let them go away. So viewing all thoughts as neutral does what? It eliminates the idea that thoughts and actions can be objectively right or wrong. We don't want to teach our children stuff like that. So over time, bad thoughts left unaddressed lead to bad actions. Right. And that's what this form of mindfulness that's in the schools right now is doing. The second point I want to make is that there is little or no quality research that supports the efficacy of mindfulness in schools. Are you aware of that? 19,000 studies. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I just wasn't aware that it wasn't research-based, and that's why I was wondering what the genesis was for this particular, method being utilized in our school system.
Well, it shouldn't be. It's wrong, and apparently we've got some lawyers involved in it now. And we've got, of course, scientists around the world are sounding the alarm, not just about mindfulness in schools, but this mindfulness fad in general, saying that, look, we just don't have the science behind it. It's mostly hype. Most of the science that has been done to date has been methodologically unsound. It doesn't meet scientific rigor. So there are problems with the mindfulness movement right now. And the fact that we're bringing it into schools is just, to me, somewhat appalling. I think people need to do their homework and realize, hey, you've got to go by what the research is saying. And it's saying that mindfulness and the use of mindfulness really doesn't impact the stress and anxiety that you're talking about here, that they're trying to help children with. It doesn't do that. So why are you risking all this, plus bringing in something that's based in a religion?
Well, and there's more to be said about this, Joan, so I hope you'll stay on after the break. We're going to get to Rochelle. We want to get to you, too. Give us a call here, 833-288-EWTN. Toll free for you right here in North America, 833-288-3986. Use social media, EWTN Radio's YouTube channel and Facebook page available for you, too. We're going to be right back. Stay with us.
Dr. David Anders.
Our assurance of salvation is grounded in the objective word of promise from Christ, who said to the apostles, "Whoever sins you forgive are forgiven." Period. End of paragraph.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
Coming up later today on Cresta in the Afternoon.
Mainstream media organizations measure success in terms of dollars. The big media networks are not therapeutic institutions, they're not patriotic institutions, they're not academic institutions, and they certainly aren't catechetical institutions. They are commercial institutions. Our purpose is Catholic mission, and our success is determined by fidelity and dynamic orthodoxy.
Cresta in the Afternoon, 4 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio.
This is a Messy Family Minute from Mike and Alicia Hernan. When we see how crazy this world is, we can be tempted to isolate our family on a desert island and leave it all behind. Well, that's not really practical, but one thing you can do is take your family away on your very own family retreat. The goal of this retreat is for growth in your family identity and relationships, and to give you time to intentionally pray together as a family unit.
The 4 parts of the family retreat are family bonding activities, prayer, teaching, and fun. We've learned that if you're going to pray with your children, you also need to play with them. When parents develop these 4 aspects of their weekend away with their kids, the results are amazing. Devoting time to your family has a lasting impact on your kids, especially if you make it a tradition every year.
To enable more families to do a family retreat, we have put together a short guide to help lead moms and dads through their own retreat planning process. To access this free download, visit us at messyfamilyminute.org.
Hi, this is Dr. David Anders. There are a lot of misconceptions about the Catholic faith. We clear them up on Call to Communion, coming up this afternoon, 2 p.m. Eastern on EWTN Radio. Now, back to Women of Grace with Johnnette Williams.
One woman at a time. Let's return to Women of Grace with Johnnette Williams.
Welcome back, everyone. We're delighted that you stayed with us through the break. We're looking forward to hearing from you. Going to give you a number that you can use, 833-288-EWTN. It's toll-free for you right here in North America. That's 833-288-3986. Also invite you to call us if you're outside of North America. That number, country code 1-205-271-2985. That's country code 1-205-271-2985. And we're out there in social media land. EWTN Radio's YouTube channel and Facebook page offers you that chat feature so that you can put your questions in there and we can get them up here. Talking about all things wacky today on this Wacky Wednesday with our guest, Sue Brinkman. She's with us every Wednesday to talk about such matters. So we invite you to call with anything wacky that you see going on, or if there's an area of wackiness that you see where you would like to have more information or more explanation, we can do that for you too. Really promoting this beautiful book, Queen of Militants, by Father Emile Newbear, recently republished by Women of Grace. We certainly do invite you to get a copy of it. It's available for you at our website, womenofgrace.com, or you can use this easy way to get there, queenofmilitants.com. That's the title of the book, queenofmilitants, plural.com. Get on out there and see why we're so excited about it. We know you're going to love it. And really, it is the antidote to all of the silliness, craziness, wackiness that we see in our world today. Joan's with us from Atlanta, Georgia. We're going to finish up our call with Joan, and then we're going to move right on to, you can call us 833-288-EWTN. So, Joan, I wanted to mention to you as we were going to the break, and we were talking about this whole practice of mindfulness and the fact that its roots are in Buddhism. And what we understand and know about this, in the desire of people to help children cope with anxiety, cope with fear, cope with the uncertainties that this world presents to them at ever younger ages. We want to try to give them some kind of peace, some kind of respite. But this is not the way to do it, because what's really happening in mindfulness, the same as it happens in transcendental meditation and all forms of meditation that come to us from Eastern Oriental mysticism, is that we're putting ourselves into an altered state of consciousness. In some way, they involve a type of self-hypnosis. So we will experience a peace, but it's not the peace that surpasses understanding. It's a peace that is based upon biochemistry in the head. And that's what's important to understand. This alters the biochemistry in the head, puts us into an altered state of consciousness, and really dulls, D-U-L-L-S, our capacity to resolve that which afflicts us in a way that is in concert with our intellect, in concert with our free will, in concert with our emotions. It suspends the free will to a certain extent. And that's why it's spiritually dangerous, because it puts us into a void. And St. John tells us in his epistle to test every spirit. Test every spirit. Well, you cannot test a spirit without using your intellect. But these very methods tell you don't use your intellect. A thought comes into your mind, chase it away. The idea is to make yourself blank, just completely blank and void, which you cannot do. And it has nothing to do with Teresa of Avila or John of the Cross, which Sue can testify to. It has nothing to do with Christian meditation. It is directly oppositional to Christian meditation, where we want to fill ourselves up with God, not empty ourselves out of everything. So I hope that helps you.
It helps a great deal. It really, really does. And I think that that's really interesting when you talk about, emptying yourself instead of filling yourself up. And also, I was thinking about with the meditation piece, when I meditate or reflect, it's an adoration, but I'm having a conversation with God, or at least I'm trying to just listen and open myself up, which is very different than just releasing it and letting it go, because essentially you are not addressing issue that is causing the depression, anxiety, or unhappiness, and there's really no power in that at all. There's no way to go. There's no place to deal with that. So that really, really does help me. So thank you.
Well, you're welcome. I think psychologically it could possibly be stated that it's more damaging because you're repressing as opposed to expressing and being able to handle it. So thanks for your call, Joan. And so, I want to go to Rochelle, and we want to get to Robert. We want to get to all of you too. 833-288-EWTN. That's 833-288-3986. But Sue, briefly, if you can, could you describe the difference between contemplation, infused contemplation, when God arrests the senses, and us doing this through a technique?
Sure. One of the easiest ways to explain it is that infused contemplation is always a gift from God. There is nothing you can do. You can stand on your head. You can do whatever you want. You will never achieve infused contemplation unless the Lord decides to grant that to you. That is a grace from God. That is the biggest difference between those two right there. In fact, that's pretty much all there is to it, is that it's a direct gift from God, and you have to you can prepare yourself for it, and we want to do that, and that is through an ever-deepening embrace of the gospel of Jesus Christ, a deeper conversion that's going on in your life, also focusing on acquiring the virtues, particularly humility, and when he decides to do that, and you're faithful to your prayer time with him every day, he may begin to give you these little infusions of contemplative prayer. They usually start very subtly. They're very easy to miss. This is why mind blanking techniques can be actually very non-progressive when it comes to prayer. They can be a setback rather than helping you to move forward in your spiritual life, because they suppress. They're teaching you how to suppress all thoughts and impulses from the Lord. And he may be trying to draw you toward him. And if you're suppressing that, you're just pushing the Lord away.
That's right. And I've often found that sometimes he even speaks in our distraction. So what we consider a distraction may not be. The Lord might bring up, a memory. He might be speaking a word to us. He might bring up an image that he wants to use to express a deeper, truth to our hearts and our minds. And I find that if the distraction persists, it's the same distraction. The best thing to do is say, Lord, why is this coming back again and again and again? Do we need to talk about this? Do we need to look at this?
That's right. That's right. You should always, when you want to just be still and be with the Lord, when he wants to lead you into more infused and more higher levels of prayer, you're going to get the feeling come over you that I just want to sit. I just want to be quiet. I just want to be in your presence, Lord. And if you're blanking your mind, you're pushing all that away. But that's usually an early sign that the Lord intends these gifts for you, and he would like for you to move forward with him with these gifts and start accepting those gifts. So you always have to remember the difference between the two. One is a gift, the other's a technique.
Right. Very good. Thank you for that help. Let's go to Rochelle. She is in Muscatine, Iowa today. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. How are you, Rochelle?
I'm doing very well. And yes, stars to you, Johnnette, for pronouncing my hometown name correctly.
What was a lucky guess, Rochelle?
Oh, you did very well. And just thank you to you and also to you, Sue, both of you. I don't even want to be away from my house on Wednesdays because I always want to stay up with everything that's going on in this arena. And I had a dear friend 30 years ago who kind of alerted me to New Age things, especially how it was creeping into the church. So just one little comment to your previous caller is I was out walking this morning, and I have a free app that comes through on my phone. And as you were talking about this, I suddenly realized on my app you can track your steps, you can track your nutrition, your sleep, but mindfulness was also one of those things you could track. How many minutes a day are you doing that? So I guess just beware. My question today is one of our the monasteries in our area offers a variety of programs for retreats and different things, but one of the things that has just come through is they're offering a drumming circle. And so they are kind of filtering into some of these things. I appreciate your conversation at the end about the contemplative prayer because they offer centering prayer. But it's my specific question is, I know the drumming circle is not a good thing, but what are its roots and what is that based in?
Right. The drumming circle is rooted in shamanism. It's a practice in which you bring a circle of people together, and a leader will facilitate what they call a shamanic journey. And this journey consists of simple, repetitive drumming that's considered to be a form of prayer to them, and trance induction. It brings them into a trance. And during these journeys, the person uses the beat of the drum to find their way back, then eventually to ordinary consciousness. So that's really what it is. It's kind of derivative from North American Indian, Native Americans, the powwow that they used to use, where they would all gather around the circle and they would with the drum beats and their what they thought it carried the heartbeat of the Indian nation was the drumming, the sound of the drumming, and that it also felt like it carried the heartbeat of Mother Earth, and it would call the spirits and the nations together. That's the Native American description of it. But now it's kind of working its way into community centers, retreat centers, and they're using them as a way to empower people as individuals, and it's called kinesthetics. It's a fancy word which means using the body. It's an activity that everyone can enjoy regardless of their musical ability. They can just, pound on that drum. And so they're using their body, so to speak, to communicate. And they're told that the circle is going to help them to connect to a common purpose of creative expression. So it does, I think, have the shamanistic roots in it. Even these more modern versions, and they're trying to put these different labels on them, and I'm sure they're making Christian versions of it and that. And some people like to say, well, Psalm 150 says, you're supposed to praise God with cymbals and the drum and that. But there's important caveats to that understanding that people need to understand. There's nothing wrong with sitting in a circle and praising God with drums, but if we're doing that as a drumming circle, then we're doing it for another reason than just to praise God. So,
right. That's kind of what I'm getting from the information that has come, where they, have made this available and where you can sign up and register, and just sort of the description of what was going on. You're exactly telling me what I thought it was. And so it's troubling to me, because this is a place where they seem to be really taking, like a hard left turn towards this New Age stuff with, centering prayer. And I know that a couple of the sisters that are there, Thomas Keating is like their favorite guy to quote and everything. So it's really troubling. So how do you approach somebody to say, hey, I think this is really going in the wrong direction, so that people aren't deceived? They go up thinking one thing, and all of a sudden they're exposed to all of it. In a really raw, in-your-face kind of manner.
Well, that's a tough question, and I get that question all the time. I truly do, and my heart just goes out to people, because it's very difficult, Rochelle, very difficult to do anything about it. A lot of these retreat centers are run by religious orders, which means that the bishop really can't do too much about it other than complain to the head of that religious order. Then you try to get the head of the religious order to do something about it. But if you do see something that is definitely against the teaching of the church, and it's in a retreat center that has Catholic in its name, you have every right to inform your bishop about it and let him know that it is causing scandal. And I really suggest that you use that that word scandal in whatever correspondence you're using, because that usually gets them to sit up and really notice what you're saying. Just let them know that it's causing scandal out there. That's all you can really do. You can't shut them down. It's got to be the bishop or the head of the order that can do something about it.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you... Go ahead. I'm sorry.
There's a lot of validity to that. I've actually been in a ladies' Bible study where we've been studying the book of Galatians, and that's where, of course, Paul calls out the false teachers that have crept in and really deceived them. So I think maybe it's just up on my radar even that much more because of that.
Yeah. And I want to say this, Rochelle, that the fact that you recognize that centering prayer and the way in which centering prayer is presented as being this really transcendental meditation technique dressed up in Christian language is also a way that we don't want to go is very good. And I would suggest to you and to everybody listening, we've got a great book for you, which Sue has put together. It's a compendium on the New Age. Is it Christian or New Age? And it's a compendium. And everything is in there that you need to know about all of these different things for the most part. And, you know, it goes into the roots of these things. And that's where we've got to go, is what are they rooted in? Because you know very well that if a tree is rooted in good soil, it's going to produce good fruit. If a tree is rooted in poor soil or bad soil, it's not going to produce good fruit. No matter how it might seem that the fruit looks good, it might be pleasing to the eye, as we well know from sacred scripture, Genesis 3. But the fact of the matter is, you know, it's poison to the soul. So we've got to be very, very cautious, very, very careful. Thanks for your call, Rochelle. We enjoyed being with you, and we enjoy being with all of you. 833-288-EWTN is the way that you can join us right here on this Wacky Wednesday with Sue Brinkman. We also accept your questions via email. Email them to us at womenofgrace@EWTN.com. That's womenofgrace@EWTN.com. Let's go to Rob. He's in Detroit, Michigan. Sirius XM 130 is the way he is with us. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well. And yourself?
I'm well. I was calling in to just give a second voice to what your guest is saying about mindfulness and, you know, many of the therapeutic techniques that are integrated, sadly, even in community mental health. I'm a psychologist as well as a priest in the Anglican Church, where, you know, I found it difficult, and I wouldn't do it, is, you know, to implement Buddhist principles and practices into psychotherapy. And I wanted to say that there's been studies done, and I'm certainly a devotee of Our Lady, the Mother of God, and praying the Rosary or the Jesus Prayer, as our Orthodox brothers and sisters do, actually achieve not only the same results psychologically, but I think the spiritual benefits certainly outweigh engaging in Buddhist practices. And she's right, unfortunately, many times these differing practices are dressed up as Christian spirituality and are neither. They're actually opening people, I think, to spiritual darkness.
Yes.
So I wanted to say that I think I can speak with some authority, both as a priest in the Anglican Church and as a psychologist and psychotherapist.
Well, Rob, I'll tell you, we really do appreciate your insight on this, and I think that you're just underscoring that which Sue's research has determined. And I am very keen on the fact that you've shared with our listeners today the fact that this can open you up to spiritual darkness, and this is the spiritual threat that exists with these things. One, it's sort of like false advertising, you know. So you've got you know, a sense of the lie being there from the beginning, because it takes on the trappings of Christianity, but it doesn't. But it is not Christianity, and you cannot make it so. It is what it is, and no matter how you try to manipulate it to be something else, you're never going to really change it. And the fact of the matter is that those practices and techniques can take us in ways that are spiritually detrimental to us. So I really value your call today. Sue, do you have a response?
Oh, I absolutely do value it, and I agree with everything that you said, because we know that not all mindfulness is mindfulness, so to speak. You know, the Buddhist version of mindfulness that's out there right now really is not all there is. There is a way to just being mindful, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's called learning how to smell the roses, and that can be, you know, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But when you start to use Buddhist meditation techniques in order to be mindful, that's when you start to get into trouble, and that's really what the more popular versions of mindfulness are. But I know psychologists, and I've spoken to Catholic psychiatrists and therapists and psychologists from around the country who have talked to me about this, and they say that they don't even like using the word mindfulness. mindfulness anymore, because it's so confusing to their patients, and they want to know, is this some kind of a Buddhist thing? So, I take my hat off to Rob, and I'm very grateful for him calling in today and for the work that he's doing, and to, looking out for his patients to make sure that they don't venture into this Buddhist area, because it does. There is an overlap between spirituality. In fact, that's what the research has shown, that there's spiritual benefits from it, even if they're saying it's secular. There's an overlap in that spirituality that comes through. And people do tend to want to get involved in Buddhism after. There's also, studies about that, after they've taken up mindfulness in their, in their anxiety and whatever sessions that they're having. So, yeah, I do appreciate it. I think it's a good perspective, and I thank him for calling us today. I think it was great.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Rob, very, very much. And call us again. We appreciate having you with us. I want to say one other thing too, Sue. There is, when you say that, if you look at it from the spiritual realm, it plants a seed in the heart, and that seed can grow fruit. And we water it through the continuation of these kinds of techniques. And it will eventually lead us away from the faith. The fact of the matter is, you can look at many of the proponents of these things that have, tried to Christianize them, and you find that they're far more Buddhist than they are Catholic or than they are Christian. So that's a problem. And I'll use one on the air here, Thomas Merton. There's many that say that he was more Buddhist than he was a Catholic at the time of his death. And this is what happens. It's a subtle seed. The evil one typically works subtly to lead us away from truth, to begin to put our faith and our belief in a false ideology, a false system of thinking. That's not to say that there's not a ray of truth in it. Second Vatican Council documents say that about non-Christian religions, that there, that there is a ray of truth in it. And what we're to do is to take that ray of truth and begin to expound on it to evangelize the individual. We're not supposed to jump into the mess with them because there is a ray of truth in it. So it's very important that we understand these things and that we move forward with some kind of true knowledge about them. Let's go to Patricia. She's in Barberton, Ohio. Living Bread Radio is the way she's with us. Good morning to you, Patricia.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for taking my call. I want to make this brief because I'd like you to, really be able to tell me what you know about it. But there's a group that is in our area and I think surrounding area. It's called Peter's Shadow. And their ministry, that they call themselves to be a prayerful ministry, a ministry that they want to pray over you, heal you, lay hands on you. But a lot of people are becoming demonically involved from it, what they're telling me, people that I know that are trying to get away from it. Do you know anything about Peter's Shadow?
Go ahead, Sue.
I do not have anything on Peter's Shadow. This is the first I've ever heard of it. I'm looking at it now. It's a healing prayer ministry of some kind. I'm seeing that it is in some Catholic churches, some places. It's creeping up there. I would have to look into that, and I will be happy to do that for you. My email address is sbrinkman with 2 N's on the end at womenofgrace.com. And why don't you just email me and we'll stay in touch. And as soon as I get my research done, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, and then you can bring it back to us on the air here.
Yeah,
I do want to say one thing. We do have the capacity through the power and the authority that's given to us by baptism to lay hands and to pray for healing. That has to be carefully scrutinized and carefully done and applied. I'm very sorry we couldn't get to you, Julia. I wanted you to share your story. Julia tells us, though, first-time caller, so please call again, Julia, that going to Mass every day helped her get out of the New Age movement, of course, because you're there with the one who is the way, the truth, and the life. Great being with you, Sue. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, and thank all of you for all of your calls. Sorry we couldn't get to you, but we're going to be back again next Wednesday for another Wacky Wednesday with Sue Brinkman. We're going to invite you once again to get out to our website, womenofgrace.com, queenofmilitants.com. Get your copy of that book. You're going to love it. I promise you it's going to be helpful. Bye-bye now.